Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Good morning, Mr. Hudson.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. What's
Good,
life
good.
like looking out your window? Because we're going to be talking about all the pictures on the wall. But first, what can you see from your window, Alan?
Well, the right opposite me is through the bushes and all that and the trees. If you go through, it's Edith Grove. It runs onto the Chelsea Embankment, and that's where the Rolling Stones resided in the 60s. They lived in a little flat there, or a big flat there, and they were thrown out for misbehaving. And they used to play in the pub on the Well's End where I live, which was called the Weatherby Arms, and they played in there, the skiffle group. So, but that was before my time. But because I was a Beatles man then, I probably wouldn't have went to watch them. But and I really rigged my neck and looked further right, I could see the Stamford Bridge, which I really used to live a lot closer to actually when I actually joined them, which was a joy in my early days. But today, I'm afraid it's not a very nice, not a nice sight. Not something I enjoy looking at, and even when I go past there on a bus or in a taxi or walking, I get the gibber, the gibbers. But they're talking about that. Look through any window. That you hit on another song, which was a very good song when the Hollies were going very well with Graham Nash. Look through any window. It was called, wasn't it?
You are a connoisseur of music, a font of knowledge, Al. This is what I love doing, the My Life, My Music. And by the way, welcome all to another episode of My Life, My Music with the Governor, Alan Hudson. You just go off on one, you talk about the Rolling Stones, your knowledge, you go into the Hollies. I look outside my bedroom window and I overlook the Clent Hills, the wonderful hills of Worcestershire. Not as romantic as those scenes that you can see from your window, Alan, and those
I wouldn't call
memories
this
that
that.
you
This
have
is
from
not
the from the
This is not
embankments.
romantic, trust me. Stamford Bridge is not romantic for me.
The embankments and the Rolling Stones were, though, and
Yeah.
it's that history, isn't it? When you look outside a window, you look at something, you remember the history, and that's what songs evoke. Those memories, those pictures that you put up on the wall. There's a song that evokes those memories, those vivid memories of those times that are never to be forgotten, and those people that are so treasured in your heart. And we just put them on there. We glance at them. We put the songs on. We reminisce, and it's fantastic. But you
Yeah.
didn't start putting pictures on your wall as a kid, did you? In your prefab in Chelsea?
No. I wasn't one of those kids. Maybe when I moved into my first home in Wimbledon, we used to put pictures on the wall but it wasn't until really that I moved. We fell in love with Seattle that it all happened because we bought a house you couldn't buy here for the kind of money that we had. It was a beautiful home, and I've made the bar, which become as popular a bar as any in Seattle for parties and everything else. It was a great bar, and I found and I had the music everywhere, pool table. I mean, it wasn't that. It sounds bigger than what it is, and that's when I started putting all the pictures on the walls of all my favourite people, and obviously Frank took the pride of place, and the Beatles and stuff like that. I must tell you one thing, a little bit of new news, hopefully. It's 50 years of my leaving Chelsea for
Yep.
Stoke.
Hmm.
Well, my son made contact with my friend went to see the Beatles 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in the Wimbledon Theatre, and and they said they were absolutely marvelous, fantastic, and they were only on for one night, so we couldn't go. But we're going to go and see them in a place called Camberley in about 3 weeks' time, and my son spoke to their manager. I told him to phone their manager, see who managers, and see if we can go and meet the lads and, tell them a few stories about, the boys themselves, or Shankly, more on the football side of it. And we're negotiating doing a day with the Beatles,
Wow.
with me doing a talk and then introducing them onto this on the stage, because they were a big part of have been a big part of my life, So he's going to come back. He really liked the idea, and Alan stressed to him. He said, "You remember my dad's good friend George Best?" He said he was. They called him when he come back from Portugal that time when he beat the Portuguese on his own. They called him the fifth Beatle, didn't they?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
I called him El Beatle, and they called him the fifth Beatle. And then it kind of rubbed off, and there was talk, down in London. There was the George Best of London, where it was Peter Marinello, but it was kind of stuck with me because of the way you live your life and
Hmm.
everything else. And he said, "Me, that was you could call him the sixth Beatle." So we're negotiating that. Them negotiations are going on, but that would be a fabulous day, especially we could do it on a day like today, and maybe do it outside and in a garden, and and have the Beatles finish the show off. That would be wonderful.
Because you've got some great Beatles stories, and when you were a kid, you used to go up to the record store, didn't you, and buy the Beatles album on that day. You were absolutely massive, massive Beatles fan, and you were. I mean, I remember all the headlines. It was Alan Hudson was the George Best of the South.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, the thing about the record shop, I mean, I was only a kid. I was only a
Mm,
schoolboy, even not even 14, right? Even when I was 10, 11,
yeah,
the Beatles were the thing. And uh, and the day of the first brought an album out, they would say this album's out at such a time. There'd be a big queue along uh, just along from me where I am now in the King's Road, where there used to be a record shop, and my mum used to walk me down there, and we'd get the first one out, and it used to be such a thrill.
mm,
And the sad part about this story is that I had every Beatles album, uh, and when I left Seattle, obviously the bird had flown. She didn't come back to England and nicked all my albums.
yeah.
So that was a bad part, the sad part about the marriage, that she nicked all that kind of stuff. But and I don't think that's right. It's just because I find that very personal. It's more than money, because you can't rebuy them.
Absolutely. And has that bird that flown still got those records? Because young Alan could renegotiate another
No,
deal.
no, no. But Al would have renegotiated that by now. The Arthur Daly of Bromley. Um, no, he would have sorted that out by now. No, no, behind my back and long, because I wasn't aware of all this at the time. But anyway, that's we only talk about happiness on this show, so we'll put that one behind us.
Absolutely. Someone Saved My Life Tonight, which is the first track, and memories of the great Robert Frederick Chelsea Moore.
Well, it's quite appropriate. We played this song on the show before,
Yeah.
and it's one of my it's one of the greatest songs ever, I think. And Reggie, we love Reggie Dwight and all his music, and but it's one of those that's. I remember when the pub down the bottom was open, and somehow they got it on the jukebox. No one would put it on. I was the only one put it on, and people were just looked in amazement. Who's this? What's this? What a song! And then all of a sudden they got and then it was on all the time. But yeah, it was. It's all about the great Bobby Moore. Talked me into Seattle, and as I've always said, if probably Waddington was the only other person, or my father would have talked me into going into the other room and speaking to the then managers of Seattle, Jimmy Gabriel, who was at Stamford Bridge that day. So it holds many memories, apart from being a wonderful song.
Absolutely, and a wonderful player. And of course, it was Bobby Moore that did say to you in 1972, before Alf banned you for 3 years, that you were going to make your debut against Northern Ireland, against what became your manager later on in your career, Terry Neal.
Yeah, it was a strange old day. That I think that was you know, a sign of things to come
Mm.
with England. Uh, it wasn't as if he did any. It was not because of anything that happened. He just obviously Bobby come to me before the game, and I didn't know Bobby that well. He kind of took me under his wing, Bobby, and you know, I think I've told you along the way. We used to. When I was at Chelsea as a kid, they used to have a West Ham scout, and he used to get my father every Saturday and say, "Bring him over to West Ham." We'd have to have him over West Ham, and so I could have made a career under Bobby, and I often wonder what my life would have been like had I been that, because being in the dressing room with every day with certain characters is an experience,
Yeah.
and that would have been great with him in particular, more than anything. I know that more Petershurst and the World Cup and all that, but it would have been Bob. I've become very, very important man in my life.
And of course, the journey as a kid, I mean, Chelsea, a stone's throw away from your prefab. You were the most local of localist kids that ever played for the Royal Blue of London, Chelsea. But if you'd have gone to West Ham, that's from the west side to like the east side. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd have had to get on the tube as a kid. It would have been an absolute journey and a half for you by doing your schooling and then going on the Tuesday and Thursdays to West Ham, whereas Chelsea literally is a stone's throw.
Well, by the time that happened, Paul, was
Mm,
the Tuesday and Thursdays were out the window, because
got you.
I was apprentice at that time, and he
Got you.
used to come over and watch our games at a place called Welsh Harp, which is in
Yep.
Hendon,
Yep.
which if you come down the M1, you'll see it on the right hand side. It's just off the M1 there, and uh, I used to travel to Welsh Harp every day, and on the underground when life was safe, I must add, for kids of my age. And yeah, one of the things was, I think my father said, it's a lot handier for you to go to Chelsea. We were Fulham supporters, and um, yeah, I often wonder. That wouldn't have bothered me. It would have been a thrill, actually, to travel over there just to be in the same dressing room as the great Bobby Moore,
Yeah.
because it's not just being in the dressing room with him. It's he used to give me little whenever I see him, and whenever I was in the England squad, he would give me little hints of how to behave and all that. The one is true that put your country before your club is quite a statement, really, coming from the man um, who did so much for West Ham. And I mean, if you said that to a West Ham supporter, they wouldn't believe you. They'd say, "Oh, he said that about us, did he?" But he was just stating a fact that you become world known in our game, in any game really, in life. Uh, by representing your country. And although that really wasn't a thing with me, I was just happy playing football,
Mm.
and I was happy at that time. But you know, to think that I could have come through I suppose it's in hindsight, it's getting treated the way Chelsea treated me, which so unfairly and disgusting, really. That I suppose I would have chose that path rather than the one I did, knowing what I know now. Having said that, my couple of years with the boys at Chelsea was, I wouldn't have had three or four of these people on my wall, the Tommy Baldwins, of Chelsea and Osgood. They were a great part of my early life.
So your wall at home, how many pictures have you got? I mean, we've got 6 songs here to go through. We've already done the one
Well,
about Bobby.
yeah, I mean, the one by my writer on my desk is full of him. I tell you, I got Lee Rigby on there.
Yep.
Bless his heart. Uh, my favourite photograph, if I had a camera to show you, is my father and my uncle George together when they were young men, and they were two most important, played the biggest part in my early football life, and obviously from then on, because I always stuck to the way my father told me.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom, like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Hiring for your small business? If you're not looking for professionals on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. That's like looking for your car keys in a fish tank. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So start looking in the right place. With LinkedIn, you can hire professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/spoken today.
I got underneath them. I've got a signed photo of Carlos Alberto, who I knew were playing it. He played with California when I was out there, and Carlos Alberto and Bobby Moore together in Mexico, which is a fabulous photo. Next to them, I have me doing the Matador or whatever it is to come and get it to Franz Beckenbauer.
It's a great picture, that, yeah.
That is a good picture.
If you want it, come and get it.
If you want it, come and get it. But I don't think France wanted it enough, you know. But that was a great night, and that brings a great memory back. Not many of those players will have that on the wall. I know that. Above that, the Tony Millard, a great friend of mine, with me in Seattle, and a great fella called Dave Gillett's up there. Alongside him is a photo of me and Jimmy Green after scoring our 6th goal against Chelsea in the League Cup, which is that was a night we were 6-0 up after half an hour, which was only about 2 months after I joined them. So that went down well. That was really a treat. Then I got a photo of me in a blue shirt with all my medical history on it. Really, that is a really good photo of every injury I've got. I've got on my left hand side, I've got the great Tony Waddington shaking hands with Tony Pulis. But this is a fabulous picture because it's Tony Pulis is in real life, and Tony's like in black and white. Is a ghost watching over him.
Yeah.
And my friend Bob Williams put that together, which was fabulous. I got one of shaking hands with John Hollins at the Victoria Ground when we played them in my first game for Stoke against Chelsea, which we won again. I think I played against Chelsea 7 times for Stoke, and we beat them 7 times, or 6 and drawn 1. So that weren't bad. So that told you something about them getting rid of me. I'm just moving over to the big wall. It's mainly me, my father, me and Osgood. Great one of me and Osgood. Great one of me and Tony Pulis. Sadly, the Tommy Wisby from his funeral. Don Howe, a lovely man, Don Howe, who with a big grin smile on his face. But he didn't have a smile on his face when he was giving me a bollocking that day at Highbury. The great Bobby Moore again with his second wife. She was lovely. Tony again. John Robertson in our coaching school with Don Shanks, Frank Worthington. That was our coaching school in Alsager. Me and Gazza together in Stoke. And you got the West Germany program. Then you got the letter of George Best saying, I've got to put my glasses on for that one, mate. It's not going to be that long. And we got Jimmy McCalliog to thank for all this.
Yeah, we certainly have. And I have to say, Paul Weller, because in 1993, in his Wildwood album, there is a song called All the Pictures of the Wall.
Oh, right.
Yeah, exactly. We're only there to serve, remind us of it all. And I do love pictures, although in our house I haven't got many pictures on my wall. My wife won't let me. You're single,
Wow.
it's a different dynamic. If I was single, I'd have them all over my wall, plastered like I did when I was a kid back in Highland Gardens.
I can't agree with that. I think she'd have to go before the pictures on the front. It's like my son with a dog.
Yeah. Has he still got the dog?
He's still got one of the dogs, but the girl's gone. Yeah.
And the fiver went as well. That was on the wall, didn't it?
The fiver with Lester Piggott and Jimmy Greaves has gone. Yeah, I made sure of that. But the letter from George Best, which is in one of my books, in 9 Cooper Street, Manchester, at the top, Oscars, Mr. Alan Hudson, Stoke City Football Club, 1st of September 1975. Dear Alan, you're still the best player in the country by a mile. Ram it down their throats where it really matters on the pitch. Your pal, George Best. So that's a nice touch on there. Then I've got several others. Me and my son, 2 sons. But a photo I love is George Eastham just having banged the winner in against our Chelsea team at Wembley. And I've got that on there because that led to, I mean, I broke my heart at the time, but it led to better things. Above that is me and Alan Ball coming off against the Germans. Below him, the great Tommy Baldwin. And next to them is Mum and Dad getting married.
Right.
It worked for them. It didn't work for me. And then I got me and my Billy Boyce, my friend from school. I still see he was the best. He was his cousin played for West Indies, and I think he would have if he got the chance. But it was a touch of racism there. I've got one with that, and one in Hawaii with Alan Hinton, Steve Battle, who I loved, and the fella that played it for Manchester United, Anderson.
Yes. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
not Viv. Willie.
Yeah.
Well, he's sitting there with a glass, and we've all got a glass sitting around this bar, and it's a terrific photo of him and times we shared in Hawaii. Because that was Derek Dugan's on the left. He wasn't even Hawaii. And I got one of Johnny Hayes with when our Chelsea team won the cup at Craven Cottage with me and my brother in a kid called Rodney Udall. Me and George Eastham sharing that photograph that I love of him. And the last one there is me getting off the train at Stoke Station looking like I'm going to death row.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
there are some fantastic memories there, Al. The one, the song and the connection, I'd love you to explain this. The most beautiful girl in the world, I'm guessing it's the Charlie Rich song. And you used to be on in Eric Skill's bar, didn't it, in Stoke? But the connection's Don. How do you link the most beautiful girl in the world to Don?
Well, Don Howe wanted the game. I did think about it. I wrote it down. I thought, what can I put with Don? Because Don was if you knew Don, you wouldn't think of anything. You think like that. That would be Frank Worthington, wouldn't it, or something like that? You know. If Don had a choice of a woman, it would be the most beautiful girl in the world because he wanted everything done properly.
Yes.
His coaching. He was a simple man. In simplicity is genius, and he played that one to the letter. He was, everything he did had to be perfect. And I just thought about Don. I thought, I wonder what kind of woman he would have, and he wouldn't settle for second best, something like that. Mm. He should have to. And that, if you played that, if it would have in Healthy Skills, his pub in Newcastle under Lyme, you know, if you played it now, you'd think of Don. I would think of Don anyway, and that would be, you know, everything. Everyone's got a song, and every place has got a song to me. You know,
Absolutely.
it's like, you know, I always say about the Witherspoons pubs. You know, every one I've been in, wherever it is in any part of London or the country, uh, I think it should be Eleanor Rigby because it's all the lonely people, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the pubs that they go in, all the people that live alone, and they go in there and they can afford to go in there and all that. So it's strange how life I can understand why these people become great songwriters, you know. And I think without fooling myself, I think I could have been a decent songwriter, but I just couldn't put no music to it.
You did send one to Phil once, didn't you?
I did, yeah. He sent it back.
But again, it's like the music and the lyrics. It's about partnerships, isn't it? Some can write songs, some can write music, some can do both. And it's like with a partner, you know, you and Osgood, you and Jimmy, you do need that other player. It's all
Yeah,
partnerships. What you have, Jimmy didn't. What Jimmy didn't have, you had, and so on, and vice versa. Combinations,
yeah,
partnerships.
absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And it's but that one I can't get my head round how two men who just met like that, and in
Hmm.
fact, I was reading his book again the other day, Elton. You know, the Watford book, and it still intrigues me, and how he can get someone who lives such a long way away and send him, you know, the words, and he puts music to it. You know, unbelievable. It's incredible. And you think only said to my friend yesterday, we were sitting out in the garden having a beer, and I said, you know, I put a couple of songs on. I said, you imagine if you were born with this voice, you know, and all the trouble you have to go through. In being a footballer, you never got kicked singing, did you? You know, you never got bad injuries singing, and you never had to. The only thing in them days, they had the same problems that we have with management and stuff like that. But that all got nowadays. There's none of that. You know, if you can sing, you've got it cracked, haven't you? You know. But yeah, I mean, as we said a million times, I remember once watching a film with no music, and you know, there wouldn't be no such thing as the silver screen, really, if there was no music.
Absolutely, but in terms of Bernie Taupin and Elton John, you're absolutely spot on. How anybody can just send a load of lyrics by the post, and then he picks it up and he goes, "Oh, there's the lyrics. I'll just write some music." Sends them back. That's another song, and it's carried on for some time. The way that they made songs together, but were never in the same room. It's
Well,
it's
yeah.
incredible.
Well, can you imagine after Elton sent in the words, and then all of a sudden, you know, the anticipation or
Yeah.
whatever of what he's going to do with them words,
Hmm.
and he come back with the kind of music he come back with. Well, I'm sorry, the other way around, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Bernie sent,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you know what Bernie must thought when Elton sat down on his piano and started playing about with these words and come out with a kind of music. I mean, his music is, you know, even things later on, you know, without Bernie, you know, with the Lion King and stuff like that, you know,
Hmm.
it's just incredible. I mean, the fella is. But what would Lennon and McCartney be doing today? You know, the beads that we've been through on the shows, the beads, things they put together, you know, it was unbelievable.
Again,
But
it is quite incredible because there's only a certain amount of notes, only a certain amount of words, there's only a certain amount of like noises that you can make, and they just make so many different ones. And in terms of like artists that
them,
you've
them,
just referenced, iconic.
yeah, yeah. Them noises are called sounds, Paul. You know, a lot of people call it noise, you know. Turn that
One
noise
man's
down.
noise is another man's sound.
Yeah, yeah,
But you did
yeah.
say about Don smiling down at you. You did have that row, but you know that came after the 1978 FA Cup final when a reporter wrote something uh, that you told him in confidence. But again, he wrote it. Don's seen it well, everybody's seen it, and Don wasn't
Well,
happy, was he?
well, it was actually the Thursday night before the cup final, and I remember walking off the pitch at Wembley on the Thursday. We've been training there, and I wasn't in the greatest of mood. I think I'd been out celebrating getting to Wembley, and I was walking down afterwards, and I thought, thank God that's over. Walking down, and Don walking towards me, and he said, "You all right?" I said, "You look a bit down." He said, "You worried about anything?" So I said, "No, Don, I'm fine. Everything's fine." I was a bit worried about. I still carrying the injury, which weren't quite ill. I was a bit concerned about that. But I said, if you can ease your mind a bit, Al. He said, you'll be playing Saturday. Don't worry about it. He says, I know you're still having a bad time with the other fella, but no, he said, you'll be playing anyway. And on the Thursday night, a fella called Bob Driscoll from the Sun called me up, and we just had a ordinary chat like we did, and then he threw in the spanner in it right at the end, and he said, so it'd be interesting to see whether you get picked or not. And I just turned around without thinking. I just turned around and said, no, I'm playing. Don told me. And then woke up on the Friday morning, it was headlines. Yeah. Oh, mate, I knew what was coming. And then, so therefore, Don pulled me in and gave me it was a horrendous morning for me. But it was a good lesson. I mean, I was 27 at the time. It weren't as if I was a kid and didn't know any better. But it was just somewhere. It wasn't a journalist I'd never known. Bob Driscoll was a friend of mine, and we used to drink together. But that's another thing going. But it was a lesson learned.
And to listen to the rest of this podcast, head on over to www.patreon.com/SRB Media. Thank you.
The living room is where you make life's most beautiful memories. But your sofa shouldn't be the one remembering them. The new life-resistant, high-performance furniture collection from Ashley is designed to withstand all the spills, slip-ups, and muddy paws that come with the best parts of life. Ashley high-performance sofas and recliners are soft, on-trend, and easy to clean. Shop the high-performance furniture in-store or online at ashley.com. Ashley, for the love of home.